Welcome, welcome, welcome to the inaugural episode for my new podcast, Bangs and Botox, Women Who Wear Aging Well. The podcast that doubles down on the whole concept you're going to age, but you don't have to get old, and you certainly don't have to get serious. Bangs and Botox isn't about pretending to have it all figured out. It's about coping with humor as your major coping mechanism. All right, maybe some snacks, yes, and you're going to want a beverage of your choice also. This show is for the women who've seen some things, said some things, and are doing things. And it looks so good on you, may I say. Let's age out loud and so very proud. I'm Diane Dean-Epps, author, humorist, teacher, writer, Mimi and Mama to the second power. A woman who's had to accept I just may be destined to become the Emily Dickinson of humor, sans living next to a cemetery, with my work gaining popularity posthumously, if at all. My latest humor book, Bangs and Botox, goes by the same name as this podcast. Won't surprise you to know that that's no accident. Pending the invention of a time machine, ladies and gentlemen, maybe mainly women, we're all going to have to make peace. Pending the invention of a time machine, we're all going to have to make peace with aging. So why not have some fun at its expense? If aging's the joke, then we might as well own the punchlines. You can subscribe to this Bangs and Botox podcast absolutely free by using the RSS feed. You won't want to miss any episodes because this is likely to be one of those one topic builds upon another topic upon another. Like a conversation that you would have if you were in a room with me. That's the kind of dealio I've got going on here. That's my plan for the future. Plus, I don't want you to experience FOMO. I'm also looking forward to you weighing in frequently. It's the all Diane channel for this Bangs and Botox podcast, which means I'm a solo act. No guests, just me talking to you as though we're having coffee together. I mentioned in the same room. Here we are, sharing the airwaves. I like a nice, strong pour through French, by the way. Drop me a line and let me know what your jam is. And how are you going to do that with a podcast, you might be wondering? Well, I'd love it if you would follow me on social media so you can engage with topics and maybe fire back some answers to my questions that are just sort of hanging out there in the airwaves right now. We'll get to this later on at the end of the show as far as what channels I've got going and how you can contact me. So, you know how you talk about doing something and then you don't do it? Yeah, so this is the opposite of that. I decided I wanted to offer up my stories, experiences, and thoughts through the narrative lens that is moi. That's one of my French words that I pretend to know, along with croissant and bonjour. And then the next day I launched like a rocket, baby. So this first episode of my new podcast, Bangs and Botox, is going to be what I call my podcast pancake. You know how you need to make that first one and it doesn't always turn out the way you wanted it to, but you need to have the first pancake so you're able to cook up a whole mess of delicious tasting flapjacks that will feed everyone after that first one that you just sort of put to the side. Yep, so kind of the same deal here. In case you got lost in my extended metaphor, and who could blame you? My podcast is the pancake. And this is the first episode I need to just get launched before I hit my stride. We're going to assume that I will hit my stride. And that means also I have to really fight the urge of perfectionistic behavior, which means I over and over again, take one, take two. I simply must accept this fully as is and offer it up to the universe and to y'all. My plan is that I'm going to drop an episode first and third Wednesdays of the month. I'll dial in a theme, riff a little, tell a story or offer up what I call sit down stand up. I do bits that I'm sitting here in the comfort of my home in a chair that has a cup holder and some really nice lower back support. It's a fun position to go ahead and talk and offer up a little story here and there and hopefully a lot more humor here and there. If I'm doing this right, you'll find that you can connect to the topics and you don't have to be my exact age. This is a human experience that we're all having, but you will want to have another virtual cup of coffee with me sooner rather than later. All right, let's do this. Today's episode is about permission, as in you don't need permission to do what you've always wanted to do. Like so many of us, I've spent my life, I tell you, pitching myself to employers, publishers, agents, directors, any number of decision makers who would decide whether I could do the thing that makes me exactly who I am. I feel like my metaphorical hand has been up in the air so much of the time while I yelled, pick me, pick me, pick me. And I've just found myself in this perennial state of having to prove whether I could perform, write, create, communicate, lead. Oh, so many other verbs. Can you relate? I was so ready for all of these opportunities, but someone had to tell me I could go ahead and, the proverbial, all right, pass, go. And so I feel that we can create our own opportunities and we should do it way more than many of us do. And I will speak for myself. This podcast is exactly that. The opportunity to connect, to share, to tell stories, to hear back from others, and to just absolutely have a good time sharing what it is we're all doing together, but, separately. So not all that long ago, I was talking to a boss who, by the way, it doesn't really matter, but that doesn't stop me from telling you. If it doesn't matter, then why are you going to say it? It was a male who was so much older than I was. And the male told me I was no spring chicken. Now, I need you to know we weren't talking about spring. We weren't talking about chickens, nor anything to do with fowl or seasons of any kind. What were we talking about? My career, which I dared, gasp, to think wasn't over in my 50s. Now, I need to frame this up for you. Maybe you're like me. I often like to look things up just because I am the queen of doing things and having jobs that make me zero money. I'm very curious. I like to have knowledge. Relatively little of this knowledge is reflected on my resume because other people, quite frankly, might not care about it. So I had to look up chicken, chickens that didn't have springs, right? Spring chicken. And basically, I want to share with you what I found. Here's where it comes from. In the early 1700s, farmers found that chickens born in the spring brought better prices than the old ones who had gone through the winter. Are you starting to get depressed yet? I felt like I was really relating to old chickens at this point. There's just a little bit more of this fine definition of provenance of where this came from. So when traders tried to pass off, traders, like not traders, like against your country, you traitor, Benedict Arnold, trader, Trader, tried to pass off old birds as part of the spring crop, smart, savvy buyers would protest by saying, hey, hey, this is no spring chicken. Let me tell you something. After I looked this up, I thought I was irritated when I first heard the saying directed toward me. When I looked it up, it was so much worse. Telling me I wasn't a spring chicken was tantamount to saying, well, it's too late for me to achieve anything else in the work world. In this jagwad's estimation, I was done. And it was time I knew it. And he was just the person to let me know that it was over for me. Well, dear audience of mine, when is that ever okay? I maybe people think sometimes they're doing you a favor to really lay it out, and I'm just being honest, but just assume no, thank you. Being someone who has spent a fair wedge of my life devoted to learning the art that is turning a phrase, I mentioned to you I'm a writer, and I've owned that persona for many decades, and it's a good way for me to figure out where I am in the world by this writing thing that I do. It's how I process. So it took me years. I hate to tell you how many years it took me to come up with the exact right response. And within this response, I utilize enough animal idioms to choke a horse. I know. It's like one of those dad jokes, right? Did you snort a little bit? Yeah, a little bit funny. This is actually a rant that I should have delivered after that ridiculous comment, probably right before I filled out my unemployment paperwork. But, you know, it's never too late to express yourself and process that which has happened to you. So here's the rant I'm going to go ahead and share with you. And certainly, when you find a transcript of this podcast, perhaps it's one that you'll lay out that is appropriate in one of your situations. Here it is. Listen, you horse's ass. I'm going to take the bull by the horns and speak my truth before I fly the coop. I'm mad as a hornet. You're projecting your limitations on me. Ha, buddy, you've got bats in your belfry if you think I'm going to agree with your assessment. You should never, ever, ever, ever tell someone they're not a spring chicken because it'll land you in the doghouse. You need to get off your high horse because the elephant in the room is you're too much of a scaredy cat to pursue your own dreams at this late stage of the game. You're an old dog, and we can't teach you any new tricks. Oh, but if we could, it would be impulse control. So you'd clam up whenever you're tempted to offer up your unsolicited opinion. While I'll acquiesce to being in the fall of my life, I've still got plenty of spring left. Oh, oh boy, I'm sure happy to get that monkey off my back. Just in case you're interested, this little rant of mine is on page 207 of my book, Bangs and Botox. I have a question for you. I'll have so many for you. Are you a chicken with a spring? I'd bet my monthly shirt buying allowance you are. What do you want to do? No, 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 no. I mean, what do you really, really want to do, but you don't think you can? Do you want to be an opera singer, a doctor, a forest ranger, an actor, a writer? Hey, how about a professional mermaid? It's a thing. I looked it up. Or a food stylist. How cool is that? I mean, I'm way into food, but I don't style it. I don't think you can style it if you're still eating it when you're in front of the refrigerator. Just, you know, I'm going at it like a rabid Wolverine, just shoveling it in with my paws. But I can think about that, what that would look like if it looked lovely on my plate. You could be the person who styled it for me, if you were into not making money and that sort of thing. Here's the deal. It's the time. It's your time. If not now, when? That is the essential question. Go out and make your own opportunity. Instead of feeling like people are saying, why are you here? And let me tell you, I've heard that so many times. I've actually had people ask me that in a number of situations. Why are you here? Do you really want this job? Do you really want this role? I always thought, well, I mean, I took the trouble to brush my hair and button up some pants and a shirt. I mean, yes. Envision what they'll really say when you show up in their lives with your prodigious talents. Here's what you will actually hear. Where have you been? That's a wrap for this week. Future episodes, I'll chat about movies that reflect well on aging, miraculous products like the axle grease I use on my own face to paste it into a nice, healthy, non-wrinkled version. I'll probably offer up more than my fair share of outlier tidbits like gardening tips and even Medicare moments addressing the hidden menu subtext I've discovered. If I've learned something, I'm going to pass it along to you because I think that's what this is all about. In this episode, if you maybe laughed or snickered, giggled, oh, snickers, doesn't that sound good? Chuckled, any sound that emitted from your nose and or mouth holes that sounded like you were amused, or if it just made you think or listen, I would love for you to let me know. We're all about positivity here at Bangs and Botox Central. So that's what I would love to hear about. I am connected on social media. I do have an Insta account. It's Ms. Right Now Author. Author. And I am on Facebook, which makes sense with my demographic, does it not? There I'm Ms. Wright, WRITE dash now. And I have a website. I've got a contact form there for you. So I'm also going to give you my website address. It is, here we go, pretty easy, Dean-Epps.com. And if you want to, no pressure, but you can consider snagging Bangs and Botox, the humor book. It's humor about aging with big laughs. I'm right now, you can't see me, but I've got my fingers crossed because I'm hoping it does provide y'all with big laughs. I laughed when I was writing it, but I know that that might not be a good measure of whether it is funny. But there are zero regrets. And that I know is something that is important to all of us. Listeners, I'll always be here for you, unless I'm somewhere else. Until our next coffee clutch, lovies.